Marketing That Works is the podcast for business owners who want to move their brand forward so that they can bring in more sales and clients. I'm Danielle Harris, and I'm bringing you what I know from more than 12 years of experience in traditional and online marketing. I have created marketing strategies for businesses of all sizes, from multi-million-dollar corporations to early-stage online businesses. Remember, some marketers chase fads. I believe in mastering the fundamentals. People tend to fall into one of three categories when it comes to reasons they don't have the momentum they want in marketing their business. I have talked about momentum before, about losing it and getting it back, but today I want to talk about the main three categories people fall into when they start to lose momentum in their business. And when I talk about momentum, I simply mean making progress on the goals that you have. And people tend to stop making progress because of some of the habits I'm going to talk about today. So, as I go over these three main categories, you might realize that you fall into one of these categories, all three of these categories, a couple of them. When you listen to this episode, I want you to recognize what your patterns are, but I don't want you to over-identify with them. Meaning, I don't want you to say, oh, well, I'm just like this. She described me to a T. That's how I am. I cannot change it. Because that is not true. The goal today is for you to see what's slowing down your momentum so that you can take charge, so that you can see your patterns and not let it get in the way of building the business you want. So let's get into these three categories that people tend to fall into. The first one that I want to talk about is called the researcher. The researcher is usually the type of person who's like, oh, I need to figure something out before I can actually get going on the goal. So things that the researcher will do is they'll say, oh, I need to figure out how to have, let's say, a webinar. So the first thing they'll do is go sign up for a program all about webinars. And then while they're in the webinar program, they'll learn the importance of having a really good email nurture sequence. And so because of that, they'll go and they'll join an email program in support of this webinar that they want to have. And then afterwards, they'll go through and say like, okay, now I need to do some deeper research on should I use Zoom webinar or should I have a regular Zoom meeting or should I use Butter or should I use some other programs? And the next thing they know, months have gone by and this webinar still has not happened. And for the researcher, they are gaining all this information, but don't exactly know what to take action on first. Every new bit of information feels like something critical. So as they learn more information, everything needs to be reconsidered, researched again. And what starts off as due diligence ends up being a never-ending search for the best information to do things right. This leads to the researcher overthinking. There is so much information bouncing around in their heads that they don't know what to act on first. So they think that a new program or a new podcast episode or a new whatever is going to help make things clear. But honestly, all it actually does is make things more confusing. And the researcher does this because the decisions that they make, it feels so weighted, so important that it needs to be done well. I was working with a client who was coming back to her business after a few months of not marketing. She had been putting in the work to research how to come back and created new things to offer to clients. But my client was building up in her head what coming back to market her business would look like. She was building it up to the point that she couldn't make a decision on what to do first. She wanted to do things well, she wanted to do things right, and so she researched and researched until she couldn't decide what to do first. The thing with the researcher is that they know information exists to make informed decisions. But with the researcher, they're afraid of how it would look if they don't take the right action, because they pride themselves on being knowledgeable or being able to find the best way to solve a problem. There is this over-identification with the being knowledgeable identity, which leads to stalling when the first step or the next step isn't clear for them. That's what happened with my client. She had all this information. She had done her homework, but deciding on the next step to take, it felt like a lot. And the researcher struggles with marketing their business and signing clients because they want to do things the right way, not realizing that the right way will appear after they take action, not necessarily with more research. And the other thing is that the researcher wants to take away all the risk. They do not want to risk taking a wrong step. And researching feels like a safe way to go about doing big things. But researching won't take all the risk away from trying to grow a business. And realizing that there will be things you won't know or fully understand unless it's done is the biggest thing that the researcher needs to understand. So, some ways that you can identify if you are a researcher type is if you've bought books or listened to podcasts or invested in courses to tackle a project but still haven't done anything with it yet, you might be a researcher. If you've learned so much and feel overwhelmed and not sure what the first step is, you might be a researcher. If you realize the more you learn, the more you still have to figure out, you might be a researcher. All of these actions are slowing down your momentum in your business. Researching is getting in the way of the creation and the action required to grow your business. When I work with my private clients, I help them to identify when they are going from the type of research that is due diligence, that's just the smart thing to do, and when they're going and crossing over into the type of research that is coming up because of fear of making a wrong choice. Because that line can feel very fine, but working with an experienced marketer who has worked on projects and researched new strategies for over a decade can help pull you back and help you to unpack when the overwhelm of so much information and fear of taking the wrong step gets in the way. All right, so we've learned about the first category, the researcher. Let's break down the second, which is the jumper. This person wants to know if what they're doing is working. They want to see the results of the work that they put in. The only problem is that if they don't see results from the 2 weeks of effort they put in, they are off to something else. They jump. They learn about a new DM strategy, so they try it for 3 weeks. They don't see the results that they want, so they jump to something else. They learn about a new video strategy, but only try it for about a month. What the jumper is doing is quitting before the strategy they use has time to actually work. And this reminds me of a time when I worked with a client who was launching a brand new group program. She had never done something like this before, and after the first few posts and the first few emails, she was ready to jump because she didn't see the results that she wanted right away. Now, she got sales the first day of launching, but she didn't get a sale for, I want to say, 2 days after that. But here's the thing, she expected a sale every single day. And she was ready to cut this launch short simply because she didn't see the results that she wanted right away. Never mind that there was still more of the strategy that was planned. Never mind that from each post and email that got sent out, she was getting new information about how to better position her programs. Never mind any of this. She wanted to quit. She wanted to jump. A jumper has the mentality of, I'll never fail if I decide to stop. This is honestly a fear of disappointment. The fear of not being able to reach a goal is actually keeping the jumper from reaching the goal. And when something comes up that gives the jumper a reason to doubt that their goal or their marketing or whatever is not going to work, they will stop. It's almost like saying, I went to the gym this week. Why didn't I drop 5 pounds? The gym doesn't work. Let's stop. Or saying, I went to 2 yoga classes. Why aren't I flexible? Yoga doesn't work. So some ways to tell if you are a jumper is if you are regularly looking up how long before a strategy works. That's definitely a sign that you are a jumper, jumping from one strategy to the next. Another sign, you abandon your current strategy because you notice another strategy is working for a friend of yours. Big classic sign. Another big flag that you might be a jumper is if you do not stick with a strategy for longer than 3 months. Now, like I said with the researcher, I don't want you saying, oh, that's me, I can't change, because that's not true. What needs to happen is that if you have the jumper tendencies, you need to recognize what causes you to want to jump. Is it because you don't want to be seen as making a misstep? Is it because you say you don't want to waste time? Is it because you feel as if it is too hard to keep up with? Know what thoughts usually come up when the urge to jump usually pop up for you. And then I want you to see if you can stick with the strategy for at least 90 days. Let's take my client who was launching a program, for example. When we noticed her jumping tendencies, we unpacked the fears that were coming up, addressed the doubts that were coming up, and her fear was that nobody would be interested in her program and that this launch wouldn't be worth the effort. So during our one-on-one sessions during the launch, we unpacked that fear using exercises that I developed. Not only that, we took what was learned from the first sales she got and used that as proof that people were interested, and even adjusted the rest of her launch materials with this new information we learned from the sales. Sticking with the launch, learning new information from the sales, and applying it to the marketing materials led to even more sales in the launch. My client would have quit if she had just leaned into her jumper tendencies. But by being committed to carrying out the plan and making adjustments as needed, she was able to fill her program for the first time that it was offered, sticking with the plan and giving it a chance to work. Okay, so we talked about the researcher, we talked about the jumper. So let's talk about the third category of people who struggle to get the momentum that they want in their business, the all or nothing thinker. This person is all in, committed to posting 5 days a week, and are able to do this for several weeks. But if they end up missing 2 days because of client delivery, they are ready to throw out the entire strategy. Or on the flip side, if the all or nothing thinker can't see how they can keep up with the strategy as written, they simply won't do it. This person thinks that doing business activities the right way will lead to faster results and waste less time. But what ends up happening is that the all or nothing person only takes actions on the things that they are 100% positive about. If there are any doubts in their ability to do it, they won't. Or if something doesn't go as planned, they will quit. I honestly don't have to go too far for an example for this one because this is me. Actually, let's be so clear, I've fallen into each of these categories at some point, but this one in particular, this all or nothing one, it's me. And I want to give you an example that's not even a business one, just to show like how deeply rooted it is, not only in marketing, but also just in life. A few months ago, I gave myself the goal of waking up earlier. And for 1 week, I was doing it. I was doing well. I was getting up at 6:45 a.m. and I was doing this for a bit. But then something happened, can't remember what, but twice in a row, I got up at 7:30. Waking up at 7:30 twice killed the plan, just completely stopped it. I didn't give myself any room for grace or anything. I figured I messed up Monday and Tuesday. I'll call it quits for the rest of the week, and maybe I'll try again next week. Maybe. And I've seen the same thing happen with clients who wanted to send weekly emails. They wanted to, but couldn't see themselves doing it every single week. So wouldn't even try, not even every other week. Or they would try and send the emails every single week. And then they would mess up twice and miss a week and then decide, I can't do weekly emails. Not for me. Can't do it. So here are some signs that you might be an all or nothing thinker. If you obsess over mistakes you made, but everyone else is giving you praise about how amazing it is. Sure sign. You always wait for the best timing to get started. That's another sure sign. You make amazing plans for a new service you want to offer, but don't take the first step to actually make it happen. That's a surefire sign. And also, you might be an all or nothing thinker. If you go after a goal, you start doing it, and you mess up a couple times, and you're just ready to throw it all away. And this all or nothing thinking, it gets in the way of your marketing momentum in a few ways. First, this kind of thinking either has you quitting too soon or has you not even trying. And like I mentioned before, at the core of this is this deep belief that doing a strategy the exact right way is the only way that results will happen. So you're thinking, why try if it can't be done right? Why keep going if things don't go to plan? On a logical level, we understand this. We understand that that is not true. But that's not how it feels when we experience it. The all or nothing thinkers feel like they hold themselves to this high standard. And while yes, things can be done, marketing can be done in a way that isn't 100% perfect, but to the all or nothing thinker, the goal is 100%. Because why would you go after and do something if you aren't going to do it well, getting it all right, doing the marketing strategy the right way to get the right results, holding up to these high standards? But those standards and that thinking, that's what gets in the way of progress. And that gets in the way because the all or nothing thinker either doesn't try or stops the second that things don't go to plan. That's a lesson that I've learned and honestly am still learning. But looking back, I realized that I've made the most progress in my life and in my business when I let go of the all or nothing thinking and remained more committed to the goal than reaching the goal perfectly. So, we've gone over the 3 characteristics that get in the way of building the momentum you want in your marketing. You have the researcher who is always in search of the best information, but gets overwhelmed and anxious about taking that first step. We have the jumper, who moves from one strategy to the next, not spending the time necessary to make the strategy work for fear of it not working and then being disappointed. And last, we have the all or nothing thinker, who wants to do the plan or strategy well or not at all. And like I said, you can be one of these or all three of these, but I bring these characteristics up to your attention because when you realize what your go to habit is, what you default to, it makes it so much easier to catch it. It makes it so much easier to stop the behavior that's slowing down your momentum and helps you get back on track. The clients I've worked with for 3 to 6 months, I've seen them go from not realizing this habit they have to coming onto a call knowing exactly what fears and thoughts are getting in their way and knowing how they need to be coached. Because when we work together, I help them see what thoughts and behaviors keep them from sending the emails that they want. I help them to see why they are so quick to cut a launch short. When I work with you one on one, I can help you overcome the jumping, the over researching, the all or nothing thinking, so that you can show up in your marketing as the confident and assured business owner that you want to be. To learn how to become a one on one client in my marketing and messaging program, The Blueprint, go to the show notes and book a call today. I'd love to help you gain back your marketing momentum and help you let go of the habits that are slowing you down. All right, until next time, I'll talk to you soon. If you want more marketing that works right in your inbox, head to the show notes and sign up for the email list. You'll be the first to know how you can work with me on mastering your marketing.